This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
This episode of the History of Bad Ideas is sponsored by the Cincinnati Comic Expo, September 23rd through the 25th in Cincinnati, Ohio. Looking to meet John Barrowman from Arrow and Doctor Who fame? Looking to meet Stan Lee, the great Excelsior? Then come on down to the Cincinnati Comic Expo. Again, September 23rd through the 25th, the official sponsor of Hobie. Roger says goodbye.
About comic books and movies, growing up with Rokusuki. Superman before Zack Snyder ruined him. Man, that sucked. Michael Keaton was the best Batman, while Christian Bale was just deadpan. No one remembers the other ones. Princess Leia in bikinis and Transformer Lamborghinis. Please don't let Shia LaBeouf ever act again. Please, God, no. Remembering Tales from the Crypt, back when Michael Bay wrote good scripts. He wrote scripts. All right here is no mystery, cause it's the history of bad. It's bad. It's the history of bad. So bad. It's the history of bad ideas. It's the history of bad. It's bad. It's the history of bad. So bad. It's the history of bad ideas. Podcast.
Welcome to the History of Bad Ideas, episode number 143. I'm Jason, and nobody else is in the studio. I'm all alone. Kind of feel like a little lonely here. The reason was because we were on special assignment. The Dit Man joined us, and Hobie went on special assignment to the Cincinnati Comic Expo 2016 in Cincinnati, Ohio at the Duke Energy Convention Center. Every September, Cincinnati puts on this great, huge Cincinnati Comic Expo, started by Andrew and his friend Matt. As you notice, Andrew was on our show a couple weeks ago. Go back and listen to that one. It's a great episode. So this year, it was the biggest I have ever seen it. Stan Lee was there, John Barrowman, Billy D. Williams, Teddy Sears, even Baby Bruce from Gotham. But no, they had tons of great guests this year. There was one downside to that, since it was so big this year and so awesome. We actually had a little issue getting interviews with some people because there were so many people wanting to see these guests and the artist. The other thing is we didn't want to take away from the amount of fans there with the artist. Like I said, I've never seen it this huge. It was great. It flowed wonderfully. The only issue was we could not get as many interviews just because we personally did not want to take away from the artist selling their items and their products. So we did get some good ones, though. We got Travis McIntyre from Source Point, and here it is. And Travis, you're from Snake Oil Comics, is Dev.
I am. I'm also a co-host of Snake Oil Comics.
But what is your true love besides podcasting?
Well, my true love is probably being the editor-in-chief of Source Point Press. That's what I spend the majority of my time doing when I'm not, sitting at a comic book store berating Devin for all of the stupid shit that he does.
He deserves it. He does deserve it.
Awful.
So you're at the Expo, your first year here.
Yep.
How do you like it so far?
I think it's really nice. And, things, I do a lot of conventions. This is the 39th or 40th this year that I've done. So things that I appreciate are probably different from what other people appreciate. Mm-hmm. Like, I like easy to load in. It's important to me. And this show is really well organized, I thought, and really easy to get in, easy to set up. Nice facility, nice hotel,
Good.
It's cool. Plus, I really like the city of Cincinnati.
How can you not? We're here.
That's right. Well, and that's why.
I know Dev has other feelings for that.
Don't listen to him. Doesn't matter.
So what is your biggest seller? Because you're an independent branch, but you guys have been growing a lot lately.
Yeah, the last year especially has been really big for us. Well, right now, here today, because David Hayes is here with us, the biggest seller we've had so far yesterday and today has been Rotten Tail, which is a graphic novel about it's basically a Spider-Man story, a lab assistant gets bitten by a laboratory rabbit and ends up turning into a mutant Easter bunny.
Okay.
Where he then goes back to his home of Easter Falls and murders everyone in the town. It's a splatter comedy, pretty hardcore horror graphic novel. And we also signed the movie rights to it several months ago, and it goes into pre-production at the beginning of October.
Nice.
So we did a special print run of it, and we've been selling them half off at the show, so that we've been moving a lot of those. And Dave is here, so that's been selling good. Otherwise, probably our classic bestseller is the Monstrous series. Have you ever seen those?
Yes.
It's a 4-issue series. Each one is sort of standalone, but in the same world. And 5, 6, 7, and 8 are about half done in production now. That's probably our traditional bestseller in terms of, how many hard copies have moved over the past since it came out, which was October of last year. And then probably what will overtake everything is the Holliston book that comes out October 26th. The Adam Green's Holliston TV show. We're doing a comic adaptation of that. And so we've been taking pre-orders all summer for it, and that's looking to be a really strong release, so we're excited.
And that's gotten good word of mouth, too, from everything I've seen online, too.
Oh, yeah. You get Dee Snider talking about it on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's a huge help because the guy has a massive audience, the Twisted Sister audience and all that, because he's in the show. So that stuff has helped. And plus, Adam himself is a big name in the horror community with Hatchet and Digging Up the Marrow and that sort of thing. So, and he's been on board from the beginning, just pushing it and talking about it, and the whole cast has been pushing it and talking about it, which is Laura Ortiz, Corey English, Bill Mosley, and Joe Lynch have all been really pushing it hard to their fan base. So we've had a huge. We did like 200 of them that were going to be cast signed, just 200, signed and numbered with the whole main cast of 4 characters were going to sign it. And we put it up as a pre-sale, and it was kind of expensive because we have to ship it all over the country to get everybody to sign it. So they were $25 a piece, and I think we started the pre-sales at like noon, and by 4 we'd sold 160 of them.
Jeez.
So, and then by sometime 2 days later, they were completely gone. So, that was like, for us, we were like, holy shit. Like, we might really be onto like a good seller. Well, if you can get, when you do a high-priced, a premium item like that, because the book is going to be a $6 cover price book. And it's a nice, square-bound, 50-page, full-color comic. And it's an easy sell, right? But when you, upcharge, because it's like, it's going to be autographed, you make a premium item, and it's, burns through like that, you feel like that's pretty awesome. So, that makes me think that when the book is actually physically here and out, it's going to do well.
And people are willing, especially comic book fans, they're willing to pay for good stuff. The $6 cover charge in that. I don't think people blink an eye if it's good quality.
No,
and that's the thing. If it's a tinfoil cover, aluminum foil cover, they may blink. Which I think you guys should do. That's my big thing. I really think they'll come back. Please?
I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. I don't want to be the spear tip that murders the industry again.
And you also have kind of more of a kids version, which I kickstarted, Biani.
Biani?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's actually just me. I didn't do that under source, but that published through Caliber Comics.
Okay.
Who is also here.
Okay.
Do you know Gary Reed?
No.
I'll introduce you.
Okay.
He's a good guy. He's editor-in-chief of Caliber. He's a kind of a legend in the business. He's been around for 30 years. Caliber's one of the original indie publishers in the U.S., along with Dark Horse and Oni Press in the 80s. They published The Crow.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day, James O'Barr. A lot of guys got their start there. Brian Bendis got his start there. Michael Allred, who went on to do Madman and many other famous things. All got their start there, and I'm from the area, and so for me, Caliber was
the big one.
Well, it was just something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So when I did Biani, I was working on Biani about the same time that Gary was relaunching Caliber, because Caliber had gone through some rough times and had kind of went out of business for a couple of years. And Gary was relaunching it, and we had met at conventions. So I had finished the first issue of Biani, which I was just holding on to, and originally I was going to start pitching it around. So it was sort of a side project. I should Biani, what it is it's like a Pokemon-esque monster hunter type of thing, but it all takes place in the Philippines, and it's all based on Filipino folklore. So all the monsters are super creepy Filipino islander mythology.
I love the art in it.
Crazy weird shit. Oh yeah, the art. Grant Perkins. He's probably best known for doing the Penguins of Madagascar comic through DreamWorks and Titan Comics, and now he does a lot of Doctor Who stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, the art's great. It does that real geometric style. So Gary's relaunching Caliber, and I'm a total mercenary, so I'm like, you're gonna need some new content, right? And of course, at first Gary, he's like, nah, well, I've got 1,500 graphic novels from back in stock. I can do those, get them all up digitally, and I'm like, or you could take this new stuff, and I sort of like cajoled him into taking it. So we did 3 issues, and then I did a Kickstarter for a collected edition. And then and those all went out, and then we've been kind of sitting on it because we did the single issues, the first 3, and then we're doing a wide distribution of the trade in a couple of months, and then 4, 5, and 6 will come out after that, and then another, because it's in the indie comics world, it's difficult to maintain a monthly.
Sure.
So we kind of do 1, 2, 3 came out, and then we'll do a trade, and then 4, 5, 6, and then we'll do a trade, and then 7, 8, 9, and it's planned for 11. So it'll be 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, and then like a bestiary compendium issue that kind of goes through each monster that we use, and what parts of the mythology I used and what I changed and things like that.
Because in the indie world, you're right, you don't get a monthly comic most of the time. It's more like a TV show. You have a season, you're done, you go away for a little bit, and then it comes back every time, it seems.
Right.
Now, you're 39 to 40 conventions this year already?
Yeah, and I've still got, next weekend I'm at Monroe Comic-Con in Michigan, which is a small show, but it's a really, really good show. And then New York, obviously, after that. And then we're a horror publisher, so October is a whole
beast of itself.
Man, yeah. Can I say fuck on this show?
Oh, yeah, we're explicit. You're fine.
It's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, you're fine with that.
October is a fucking nightmare, kind of. It's every single weekend we have something. Whether it's a store signing on a Saturday or a full convention. And then November, I've got 3. And then it wraps up and I take December and January off.
How come?
And then... because I need to. And then otherwise my wife...
I was going to ask you, that was the next question.
When I started the company... I pulled together some investment money, and I put in some myself, and, my wife and I, we had a long talk, and I was like, look, because I've been doing some writing and having some comics published and things like that, and done a little bit of self-publishing, and she kind of knew, she was okay with that part, because it was a hobby thing, and it was fine. And then when I sort of got in with Josh and Trico, who had founded SourcePoint, and they had just started it, and I was like, these guys are interested in having me come in and really help, and actually put some capital into this business. We had a long talk about it, and I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and at the time I had like a 1.5-year-old and a brand new baby, and I was like, this is going to take a lot of time. We're talking like 40 plus weekends a year. A lot of evenings. It's basically going to be another full-time job. And, Laura is a wonderful woman. We kind of said, look, give me 3 years. Give me 3 years, and if I can't make it work, at least to the point where I personally don't have to do 40 shows a year, then I will back it off and we'll shrink down to where it doesn't have to happen. So I've got basically to the end of 2017 to keep pushing real hard, me personally, and then. But I think it's already starting to kind of slowly turn that corner, to where we've grown a lot and we're getting noticed a lot more, and we're getting a lot more distribution, a lot more avenues are open up, and we've got, we signed a book to a movie deal. We've got several other properties that are being looked at. We've got one more in current development, as far as film goes. So some of that sort of stuff. I brought on an assistant not too long ago, so hopefully, I can kind of get him up to speed, and I can. Not that I don't love doing the shows, because I do. I would like to get down. It's a lot of work, though. I'd like to get down to about 12. I think about 12 is good. And to be honest with you, I didn't really see. to a certain extent, like, yeah, it kills me sometimes, like, 'cause I miss the kids. But at the same time, I'm like, well, would it be better to do this when they're 7 and 9?
Yeah.
You know, like, it seems like this is the time, right?
And you're similar to me because I have 3 young kids, 6 of my oldest.
Oh,
so, yeah, trying to find any weekend. Like, I don't even know how you guys do because I have trouble finding time to just go to an expo.
Well, one thing, my wife's mother lives in the same town as us. So
Okay.
that's a huge help. And, yeah, my wife's just a trooper, man. She's a trooper.
And in all honesty, if you don't have that, that's the biggest thing is...
Oh, she could totally deep six this. She could make my life completely miserable. But it's working out. But yeah, it gets tiring. So I take January, February off, and then next year February starts off pretty strong. I think we've got 2 in February, and then once March hits, you're kind of right into the spring season. So
And it goes pretty much nonstop.
yeah. I mean, you got Seattle and C2E2, just like some of the big shows are in there. So
Can you talk about Classic Pulp, right?
Classic Pulp?
Yes, because I see it all the time on Facebook and everything else.
Yeah,
I'm
Classic
intrigued.
Pulp has turned into one of our most popular titles, particularly with comic book stores. So what it is it's Josh Werner, who I don't know if you've ever met, but I can introduce you if you haven't. He's a kind of a super freak fan of the real old school 40s and 50s pulp horror, pulp detective, that whole genre, and I dig it very much too. So what we kind of did is we literally dig through old, dirty long boxes and actually find the old issues that were often like magazine-style issues that were full of like shorts, right? And were often didn't even credit the artists or writers. So and it's all public domain. So we take it. We pick out some that we want to use. We try to pick a theme. Number 1 is horror. Number 2 is detectives. Number 3 is going to be all Ellery Queen stories. And 4, I don't think we've actually settled on what 4 is going to be yet. But we scan the pages in, and Josh goes through and digitally recreates them, basically. He cleans out all the wrinkles, tape marks, ink, pencil, damage, everything else. He then goes through and does basically a recolor on them because printers are different now than they were then. So to actually get the book to look exactly the same as it did when it first came off the presses in the 1940s and 50s, you have to kind of do a recolor to sort of try to recreate that accurately. We also do a ton of research to try to figure out as close as we can. Sometimes we can't find it, but we've got a pretty good track record. I'd say we're like 75% of the time we figure out who wrote and illustrated the story. So we put credit in, and then we re-release them in our Classic Pulp series. And it started off, it was just sort of Josh wanted to do it because he enjoyed it. You know, it was almost like a hobby book. And it was like, oh, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, we may print, and it started off, we'd print like 25 at a time, take them to a show, and then we'd sell them. So then we started doing slightly bigger print runs. Then once we kind of started pushing them into stores, it turned into one of the things where a lot of shop owners were like, it was something they could really grasp onto because they would already know, like, oh, I got 5 guys who will buy this sight unseen because they love this shit, right? So it turned into this thing where they could buy, the shop would buy from us, and they'd go directly into a pull list. You know, they knew the profit was there, and then they'd buy a couple extra to put on the wall. So the Classic Pulp ended up becoming this really good wedge in the door for us to kind of get in with all the rest of the stuff that they'd never heard of, you know, and you know, so strangely enough, it's worked out, and it's probably one of my favorite books. I don't know if you've ever seen one, but one of the coolest things is we did a ton of work on the paper.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually like a faux newsprint paper, but it's actually more durable, but you get the same look and feel. Like it feels a lot like newsprint, and the colors pop, and it has the same. We wanted it to look as close as we could possibly make it, while still cleaning up all the mess from it being a rotting old comic book to what it looked like when you first pulled it off the shelves then. And you end up with, I mean, you end up with some absolutely beautiful shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous, weird. I mean, some of these old things, like old horror and old hot stuff, they are fucking weird shit. There's weird shit these people are writing about.
We
get some great stuff.
Because I love the old Tales from the Crypt stories and that. And to a lesser extent, Creature from Black Lagoon, those type of movies. Like, I love those movies.
Yep.
And it's such a niche market, and you can't find anything on
Yep.
it.
It's very niche, and it's very. It still has a real underground type of quality to it. And yeah, it definitely is not for everyone, but I tell you what, like, you can always tell when it is for someone, because that can be one of the easiest sales we make. It's, you know, we don't pitch it usually. It's usually someone walks up and wants it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I want this thing, you know, and it's boom, easy sell. Whereas, you know, we do a lot of pitching with other stuff because we're a smaller press publisher, and you got to tell people what you're doing. But that one, if you're the type of person who wants it, you want it, and it's an easy go.
Are you ever going to do like My Little Pony or anything lighthearted?
We do Dead Duck and Zombie Chick, which is this is Gary Reed right there.
Oh, okay.
Rusty old bastard. We do Dead Duck and Zombie Chick by Jay Fosgate, which is sort of his adult cartoon. He's My Little Pony artist. Pretty well known. He also did Rocket and Groot for Marvel, and I think he's done some Avengers.
Which, if you have told me you could do a Rocket and Groot comic book in 2016, boggles my mind.
Yeah.
Obviously, now you can, but I mean...
I'm in one of them. I'm in.
Really?
Yeah, me and Devin are both. There's the Jay did one that was Rocket and Groot are fighting against this planet of these blue Vikings, space Vikings. And the background of one of the panels, there's two kind of dopey Vikings, and that's you can totally tell that it's me and Devin.
Let me ask you this. So, obviously, Marvel, DC, they have their movies come out in that. Do you see a big impact, like, audience-wise, coming over to you? Because everybody always says the movies don't impact the comics as much, vice versa.
That's kind of bullshit. I think that the movies... So from our perspective as a smaller company pushing into the film market and trying to get into the film market, I have found that things are... Okay, so for us, sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
For us, trying to push into the film space and, you know, get production companies to look at our stuff and, you know, look at our pitches and then pulling in investment money and doing things like that, I have found that because of the success of things like the Marvel cinematic universe and what they've done and their model, it is... And again, I don't want to, because there's probably a ton of people trying to do this, and I don't want to speak, I'm speaking only for me.
Sure.
I have personally found that it has been so much easier to get that door open than it was previously.
Because they've seen the success in that.
And there's now... And it kind of has always been. I mean, there's been tons of movies. Like History of Violence was a graphic novel before it was a movie. Crow was a graphic novel before it was a movie. This isn't it's brand new, but it's the first time that it's like a giant production company hooked up with a giant comic company and we're like, let's make a shitload of movies. And then they were like, holy fuck. Like, people will not only watch a movie that's part 1, part 2, part 3, but they'll watch movies that are interlocking as a pyramid building towards a thing. Like who would have ever imagined that movies might work exactly the same fucking way comics work? So that has made, in my personal experience, we have had a lot of luck. And so a lot of it is luck. Don't let anybody... I mean, you do make your own luck, and there's a ton of hard work, but some of it's just being in the right place at the right time, saying the right thing to the right person, you know. And I've had a few of those moments that I got really lucky to have met a person and they were interested and moved on from there. But it does feel like, because of the huge success of that and the fact that the audience has become more casual and more mainstream and less of a niche thing for just comics in general across the board. I mean, obviously it's superheroes are here still, you know, high, but it's trickled down, you know, and that there's just producers and investors and distribution companies are just more open to the idea of doing stuff. Now, for us, our model is completely different from like a Marvel model is. You know, it's similar in that, like, but it's more like we're indie horror and sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I want to make indie horror and sci-fi movies, right?
Correct.
You know, I don't want to spend $250 million. I want to spend $1 million. You know, and I want to make a B horror or B sci-fi movie, and I want to, you know, do more of an underground release. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I do, and also the risk is far lower than making a $220 million film that, you know, that you then spend $200 million promoting. And
you trying to talk Batman v Superman?
Not necessarily, but that's a good example.
Good example.
Of that. So we it's not really that similar what we're trying to do, but it has opened those doors. Now we've had a lot of B-horror, B-sci-fi filmmakers and producers have been really interested in our line of stuff because we're building an audience from a grassroots on a new IP, right? And it's already a comic, and it's already out there in the marketplace, and it's already moving and selling, and has a little bit of a fan base, and you come in and you're asking for $1 million or $750,000 to make this movie, which in the movie world is micro budget.
Sure.
And it's because of this huge success, it's trickled all the way down, and people are far more open to looking at stuff like this. So for me, I think that it's been great, and I love the fact that and if you've ever listened to Snake Oil Comics, you're probably aware that I'm not like a super big fan of superhero comics.
I've heard that. I've heard rumors.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the good stuff I like, right? And I have like some soft spots for some of the goofy shit too. But I'm not like a hardcore fan of any of that stuff, But for me personally, I love the fact that it's pushed itself into the mainstream because one, it creates space at the bottom for guys like me, right? When they move into more mainstream, that pushes everybody gets drug along in the wake a little bit, And so I think it's great.
Well, even with the Expo, I mean, even if you're just a fan of the movies and that, it brings people to see your work, and it brings people in that may not have been looked at it.
Here's a good way to look at it. I kind of mentioned this maybe I think before the interview started, is that one of the hardest guys for me to sell a book to is a really big Batman fan. The guy who's a really big Batman fan just loves Batman, and that's great, right? I'm not against it, but that's what he's into. More power to him. He loves Batman. He comes to a place like this, he wants to buy Batman shit. He's hoping Scott Snyder's here because he wants to get his Batman book signed, or Neil Adams.
Yeah.
He's a Batman guy. He likes Batman stuff. I don't sell any Batman stuff, right? We don't do Batman. It's really hard for me It's really hard for me to sell a book to that guy because he's not interested. He knows what he wants. When you bring in people who are casual fans who are like, I really enjoyed the Batman v Superman movie. I've never met one of those, but I assume they're...
You've heard rumors.
I assume they're out there somewhere. Or maybe they love maybe they love the Christopher Nolan movies. Whatever.
Or the original Daredevil.
Sure, whatever. They are... but that's what they like. They thought that was cool, like, let's go to a Comic-Con. Great. But those people are not so beholden to this thing that they're unwilling to be like, oh, wow, cool, look at this other stuff. It's really easy to get those people to open up and try an underground thing or an independent thing or a weird horror book or a weird sci-fi book because they're not myopic about what they're trying to find So for me, I love the fact that it's opening up into a mainstream audience, and it's kind of allowing mainstream buyers and mainstream fans to come in and find their own little weird shit that they like,
Now, before we cut out here, tell us where we can find you guys.
Well, we're all over all of the various social media. We're easy to find. It's at Source PT Press on Twitter. It's at SourcePoint Press on Instagram. Facebook.com/SourcePoint Press. Easy to find. www.sourcepointpress.com is our website. It gets updated regularly. We have a blog on there. We have 2 different webcomics that we're developing that we're going to start releasing free, just as sort of an experiment. One by Bob Sally, who I don't know if you've met before. Look him up. He does some really awesome stuff. And we have a book coming. We're going to release a webcomic called Shelter Division that I'm really excited about, and it is fucking gorgeous. The art is so good. Also our store is there, so you can order anything. We're also carried in a lot of stores, particularly stores in near where we're from, Ohio,
Michigan,
Indiana, Chicago, Michigan especially. But also we've got we have stores from California to Boston, Massachusetts. So if you're listening and you want to buy us at a comic book store and we're not there, one of the best things you can do to help a small press publisher is walk into your store and say, hey, I want to buy this stuff. Will you get it in for me? You know, that is hugely helpful for us. So.
I think a lot of people don't realize all you have to do is ask with the comic book stores.
Ask. They'll figure it out. They'll find us. You know, they want to make money, so they'll generally do it. And that's a huge help for us because that lets us create another relationship with a retailer and start getting them, you know, carrying our books and getting used to ordering our books and getting our books in front of people who don't know they already want it. So yeah, that's it. And if you're looking for me personally, I'm at T McIntyre1 on Twitter, and you know, I'm pretty. I'd say that I'm relatively accurate. I guess I'm more of a serial retweeter than anything.
Yeah,
else.
but that's okay.
Yeah, that's just laziness.
Well, Travis, I appreciate it, man.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good expo.
Yeah, you too.
Well, thank Source Point and Travis for that. He took a lot of time, and there was a lot of people going by his booth looking at his artwork and the comics, so I appreciate him taking time out for that. Next, we actually got to interview one of the bigger artists in the industry, Jay Foskett. He does My Little Pony. He does Deadpool. Actually, he'll tell you a lot more about it. But it was great to actually sit with him and just for a few minutes and listen. Again, he had a long line at his table, so I did not want to take up too much time, but it was great to talk to him and just get a little bit more insight into the whole art industry of comic books. Enjoy.
This is Jason from the History of Bad Ideas at the Cincinnati Comic Expo, interviewing Jay Foskett from the Artist Alley. Jay, thanks for coming on our show.
Well, thanks for having me on.
So, first time at the Expo?
This is the first time I've done it in about 6 years now.
Okay. And what are your thoughts so far?
Last time I did this was, like I said, about 6 years ago, and I'm from Detroit, so a bunch of us Michigan artists come and do this show often. So.
Okay. And you're in Cincinnati, so what more can you want?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us what fans can see your work from.
Okay, well, I'm an artist on My Little Pony for IDW. I'm a frequent artist on a lot of Marvel comics. I've done covers for Avengers, for the Spider-Man line, most recently Deadpool. I've drawn Gwenpool. So quite a few just this year alone. I've done a lot of work for Boom and a couple other unrelated things for IDW, and then I have my own titles, Dead Duck and Zombie Chick, which is published by Source Point Press, and then my all-ages book, Bodie Troll, which was published by Red 5 Comics, and now I'm self-publishing currently, so...
We actually, when I was interviewing Travis, we were talking about your Dead Duck comic. What was your inspiration for it? Like, what came up with that idea?
Well, I was like 14 when I created it, and at the time I was a big fan of Tim Burton movies, and I really liked macabre, goofy stuff, and I always liked cartoon ducks, so I just sort of decided to do my own spin on that and incorporating all these different interests.
Okay. And how many issues are you out with that?
Well, originally I had put out a full graphic novel through Ape Entertainment back in 2009, and then hadn't done anything with the characters in years, and then talking to Travis at Source Point, we decided to put out a one-shot of brand new material, never before published material, and so we just put out the one issue, and it's really been kind of taken off. So next year we're talking about putting out an omnibus, which would collect all pre-existing material, put in some new stuff, and have some surprises in there. And we have some other Dead Duck projects in the works that we hope to announce soon.
Okay. So you've worked with the big companies obviously before, and who's your favorite character to draw?
Honestly, it's my own character, Bodie Troll.
Okay.
That's if I could draw nothing but Bodie, I'd be very happy. So it's the adventures are very fun fairy tale stuff. So that's what I like to do.
Can you give us a synopsis of what that is?
Yeah, Bodie is a fairy tale troll who wants to be big and scary, but he's too cute and cuddly, so no one takes him seriously. Most of his adventures revolve around him trying to be the villain of the fairy tale, but he inevitably ends up the hero despite his best efforts.
Okay. And how many issues are you out with that?
We had originally put out 4 issues through Red 5 Comics, and then we did a collected trade of that first volume, and then we put out issue 1 of the second miniseries, and then there's been some problems at the publisher, and my contract was up there, so that's why I'm moving on. So we're waiting to release issues 2 through 4 of this next miniseries, and I've got a lot of stuff, that I have planned out for the future for it.
Okay, good. And then you obviously have sketches throughout all the table and that. How do you pretty much become good at it? I mean, how do you, for any up-and-comers?
In my case, I've been drawing since I was 2 years old. I mean, that's not necessarily the way you have to do it to be a pro in the industry, but I've drawn nonstop. When I was 5, I said I was going to be a cartoonist when I grew up, and so that was my singular goal. But I know guys that, like one of my very close friends went to college to study music. He wanted to teach music, and he just enjoyed drawing on the side. And in the middle of college, he's like, I think I want to switch to art. I'm a little more interested in art. And now he's doing Future Quest for DC's Evan Shaner. He's been doing a lot of stuff for Marvel and DC and other publishers for the last close to 10 years now. So.
And the Future Quest is really interesting.
Yeah.
With the Hanna-Barbera and that.
So you never know. It's at any point in your life, just so long as you have the talent and the drive, you can make it happen. So.
When do you think you felt like you've made it? Not that I know most artists I've talked to have said, they never really feel like they've made it.
I started to feel like I was gaining a foothold in the industry. Like I'd really started going full-time in comics around 2007 with Dead Duck. But it wasn't until about 2012 when the Bodhi trade had come out and I realized I was building a fan base with that and I was getting more recognized at conventions. That's when I felt like, okay, things are starting to happen. And then once I got gigs with Marvel, then I felt like, okay, this is it. I've made it happen. This is what I've been waiting for. So.
And then are you still going to do some more Deadpool covers, or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I have one coming out for Deadpool 2 soon. I think issue 1. It's a variant cover, and that comes out, I believe, October 18th.
Okay.
I think. And then I just got assigned a new Deadpool cover this past week for the I think it's the regular series. I can't say much about it, but it's very much fits my cartooning interests.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the one thing, since you do My Little Pony in that, and the fan base is rabid for it sometimes, what is, I want to say, what is the most interesting thing, surprising thing you've seen from the fan base with it?
Anger.
Really?
Anger, yeah. I have a lot of fans that say I'm their favorite artist on their series, or at least they really like my work on the series, but the ones who are very negative and aggressive about it hunt me down on Twitter, and I get crap from them all the time. I just don't respond, because all you're doing is fueling it. And that's what I would advise anyone that gets any negativity, just don't respond. I mean, that's their fuel. Once you don't respond, they got nothing to combat, but it still hurts and it's frustrating. But I have a lot of friends in the industry that are like, what, screw it. Ponies is a good franchise to work on. You have fans on there, and, to be honest about it, it's good paying, and it's a nice chunk of my career. So. And
I used to collect a lot of IDW and that, just in the last 5-10 years and that. And it's a great publisher to work with, and I like that they do a lot of the niche markets. Not that My Little Pony's niche, but you don't expect it. Yeah. You don't expect it to be a bigger one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go because I know you got people at your table here and that, but I appreciate it. Where can we find you at and where your books at?
Go to jfosgett.com.
Okay.
My comics are sold in comic shops all over the world in some cases.
Sure.
So, jfosgett.com has links to all my social media, and you'll find out where I'll be next for whatever con and what projects are coming up.
Okay, Jay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We want to thank Jay for that. It was great sitting down with him, and you can find all of his artwork at Jay Fosgett. And again, he's in Deadpool. He's doing the covers for it. He does My Little Pony, so check him out. Next up, we have Ben Peter, the makeup artist from Face Off on the Sci-Fi Channel. He was a great guest, and enjoy. This is Jason with the History of Bad Ideas, talking to Ben Peter from Face Off, makeup artist. Ben, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Great. Is this your first time in Cincinnati with the show?
Actually, my third time.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you like it so far?
It's good. It gets bigger each year.
Yes.
So it's really nice.
I've noticed that this year, like today's Sunday, and it's a little bit slower, but it's still packed pretty good.
Yeah. Yesterday was extremely packed. Today, people will start trickling in more and more. Seems like they kind of got the dance. There was a dance last night, the ball.
Yes.
Seems like they're still trying to wake up from that, but yeah, it's getting there.
Now, everybody knows you from Face Off and that. What got you started in this industry, basically?
So when I was a kid, which was back in 80s and 90s, there was a show called Movie Magic. And I think they only had like 1 1 or 2 seasons of it, and it really showed behind the scenes of how they make miniature props and the Michael Jackson Thriller movies and stuff like that. So that really got my interest going. And then throughout the years, you tend to grow up and forget about stuff, and I kind of faded away from all of it. Ended up joining the Marine Corps. Was a helicopter mechanic for 5 years. Worked on hydraulics and sheet metal work and stuff, so I still did mechanical stuff with my hands. And then it wasn't until probably 2010, 2011, I saw a guy that was carving pumpkins. He's doing 3-dimensional pumpkins. His name's Ray Villafane.
Okay.
His work is phenomenal. And then I figured, well, I'll give it a shot. So I started getting into it and learning how to carve, pumpkins, 3-dimensional faces. And I actually contacted him, and he was giving me pointers on, what kind of pumpkin to pick and, the weight of it and stuff. And so I wanted to learn more about, like, the human anatomy and sculpting and stuff. So I went to a school out in California called Cinema Makeup School.
Okay.
And it was a 4-month master's program, and I got to meet Steve Wang, Steve Johnson, V. Neal, like they're all out there. They're all part of the school, they all come and check out, students' work and stuff. And
which is invaluable, having those guys help you.
Well, they'll have like a Christmas party, and Rick Baker will just show up and be talking to people, and you're like, hey, what's up? He's like, he's super nice. What's going on? Start asking questions and stuff, which is just crazy to think of that, you could be a student of the school and Rick Baker walks in just to bring in a
prop.
Hi. Yeah, he's going to bring in a prop to set up in their little gallery or something. So I got into doing that, and then it was probably about 2 years later, I tried out for Face Off, and somehow I got accepted, and it was just a story from there.
What, for Face Off fans, what is the biggest surprise? Because, that people wouldn't know, the general audience wouldn't know.
A lot of people think, or they have questions that, do you get extra time? They don't show on camera, and the answer is no.
That is what it is.
Yeah, and you actually get less time than you think, because they say you get 3 days to work on a project. Well, the first day you get your 30 minutes for your sketch design, and then you get 5 hours in the lab. The second day you get 9 hours in the lab, and then the third day you get 4 hours in the lab and 1 hour last looks. So you're only getting 19 hours out of 3 days. It's like, it's crazy. And
it's not what they think.
Yeah, you don't get extra hours, When they say put your brushes down, you're done. Like, you don't get any extra time. And it'd be kind of nice if they would let us have extra time, but they're not going to.
Yeah. What has Face Off done for you, like opening the doors in that industry?
Face Off is really just being able to self-promote. It gets your foot in the door, so it's what you make of it. There's people that have been on Face Off and they just fade off and go to regular jobs. And then you get people like Wayne Anderson that does phenomenal sculpting work, and he did phenomenal work before he was even on Face Off, but it helped show things that he can do. And now he works at like Legacy and like other places. They're like, hey, we've got a crocodile we want to make. They're like, oh, contact Wayne, because he's like super into like crocodile skins and like fish and
like the hard
ogres,
scaly stuff.
The real detail, like skin pores and stuff. Like he's really just leaps and bounds above other artists, and it's just phenomenal. I got to meet him when I was at Cinema Makeup School. He had actually just finished filming his season, and he was working on his brother's project, the big what is it called, the Draxus or something. It's got the big wings and stuff. Big horns, crazy horns and stuff. Well, he was working on his brother's body cast while I was in school, and so I was helping him like throw mud and like mix stuff up so that he could make his brother's body cast. So I got pictures of that when we were working together. And it wasn't really working together. It was more of like I was there and just like, hey, you want a hand? He's like, yeah, sure, why not? So super nice guy, like the nicest guy you'd ever meet. So
What is your favorite creature design that you've ever done? I know that's probably tough because they're all kind of your babies.
Yeah, I like them all for different reasons. The Hellraiser the Clive Barker challenge was probably one of the more difficult because when we were at the Whiskey A Go-Go in Los Angeles, and the models came walking down the steps already in wardrobe. And we were like, so what can we do to the wardrobe? They said nothing. You had to make a character off of the wardrobe, because that's what Clive Barker used to do. He used to go to places like Whiskey A Go-Go and see what the weird outfits people were wearing, and the leather, and the lace and all that stuff. And that's how he came up with the Cenobites. He already had the idea of the leather and the long trench coats and stuff. Well, what's the most creepy thing you do with that? Well, I'm going to rip their flesh off and make them into people that torture people.
Sure.
And that's what he did. And it was just crazy. So that was that challenge. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite, because I ended up winning that one. I won the what was the other one?
I'm trying.
Hunger Games.
Okay.
Yeah, me and Darla did the Ram Cactus, which is that big guy. And so that was probably one of my favorites also. But the Clive Barker one I kind of stumbled upon it as I was developing it, and I wasn't expecting to win it at all. I was hoping to at least be safe.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be bottom looks, but I ended up winning it somehow. So.
Now, where can we find all your stuff at, and designs and everything else?
I do a lot of stuff just on like Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
You just Google me. I'm on Twitter and stuff too, and I cross promote my pages and stuff.
You got anything upcoming that you want to talk about?
I'm actually transitioning into doing more fine artwork.
Okay.
I'm going to start getting into foundry work and pouring up like bronze and brass sculptures and stuff.
Oh, wow. And you actually got lamps and everything else here, which is really cool.
Yeah, I got a skull that I molded up and I rotocast it, and got a little lamp that I turned it into, and just little projects that I work on my own just to keep myself busy.
Sure. And with you being a helicopter mechanic, pretty much it all goes from there, that you just need something to do with your hands, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny that you went from helicopter mechanic to makeup artist. Everything is just building and creating in some form or another.
Yeah, and it started when I was in high school. I was in pottery class, and I told the teacher I didn't want to make cups and bowls and plates and stuff. I said, so can I make a sculpture? And she was like, yeah, sure, do whatever you want, She knew that I didn't want to do
a coffee mug?
Yeah, a coffee mug, because that was boring to me. And so she allowed me to expand, and that's how I learned how to manipulate clay. And if you let it set overnight, keep it wrapped, but let it set overnight, it'll stiffen up, and then you can actually start using your tools on it. But if you let it sit overnight uncovered, it cracks the next day, and dries out.
That's what happened to all mine.
Yeah.
I gave up.
Yeah, you got to learn how to work it right, so.
We want to thank Ben Peter, and you can check him out on Instagram and on his Facebook page, and also on Twitter. Again, that's Ben Peter from sci-fi show Face Off. And of course, we couldn't do the Cincinnati Comic Expo without our big lovable huggy bear, Dev from Snake Oil Comics. It's the first time I got to see him, and I got a big old hug from him, so I appreciate that. But then Jeff got to sit down with him, and you could hear the Dip Man in the background a little bit too. So enjoy.
All right, here we are in beautiful downtown Cincinnati, Duke Energy Convention Center.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I haven't been outside much, so I can't attest to the beauty of outside.
I'm here with Big Dev. Had to get the sigh.
Of course, it's apparently my signature now.
Yes, I think the interview will just be Dev sighing after every question.
If it's all about Gotham, then yeah, it's going to be a lot of sighs.
We don't have to talk about Gotham. Well, did you see the new Gotham?
I did
premiere?
not. Heno did tell me that I should actually watch it. It's fun. But no, I'm not going to.
If you didn't like what's happened before, you won't like what's going on.
Well, I really thought they had potential at the beginning of season 2, and then about 5 episodes in, they lost me.
You threw your hat down and said, "That's it, I'm done."
Yep. pretty much.
Oh, all right. Last time I talked to you,
Yes.
you had driven through to go down your bourbon tour.
Yep.
And then I listened to the snake oil, your podcast.
Which one? Shot of History? Or
I think it was your just regular.
Snake Oil?
Right.
I talked about a little bit. Shot of History is the one that I actually did, like, the history of bourbon on.
Well, there's one specific thing you said. Maybe it was just you complaining on Facebook. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I do a lot of complaining on Facebook and Twitter.
There was one specific thing I wanted to ask about.
Okay.
Because you were bitching about Ohio driving.
It's terrible.
And I didn't know if there was a specific thing about it.
Well, it's so they slow you down to make you be here that much longer, and just the worst drivers, especially like. And it's, maybe it's not the drivers. Maybe it is just the fact that here in Cincinnati, there are 80 interchanges that hit at the same time, and you don't know exactly which one you're supposed to get off on.
That does suck.
And there's a bunch of, here's exit 1 through A through F. Yeah, I don't know. It's very slow. I mean, I'm used to driving 80, and you get over the border into Ohio, and you immediately have to drop down to 65. That's semi-driving.
Because that exact same weekend, I was up on the far corner of the state.
Yep.
Northeast is about as far as you can go, almost to Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I drove straight down to the southwest, and it was like the smoothest drive I've ever had in my life. And just the same time you were bitching about, and I went, I thought it was pleasant this weekend.
Maybe it was just the road that we were on, and every time I've come through Ohio,
I think the biggest problem is 71, which was the interstate I was taking.
Yeah.
They're pretty much most of the way 3 lanes, and I think that might have made the big difference.
Yeah, that could. Well, last night leaving here, 75 is all under construction.
Oh, that's been under construction since I was born.
We're leaving here, and it's like, okay, well, following the GPS, and you hit all these weird splits to maintain the same amount of traffic, and then you all end up merging back together anyway. It makes no sense how they laid it out. They would have been just better off saying, oh, only these 2 lanes are open. It was super weird, and trying to ride it for that night, it was a nightmare.
You just go straight, forward. And
well, if I would have kept going straight in the lane that I was in, I probably would have ended up in Kentucky, and that's no good at all.
But you enjoyed your bourbon tour.
I did. It was an experience.
So you said Shot of History. You got the whole story on that?
Yep. We did a two-parter where I basically gave kind of a brief history and what makes bourbon, and some of the mythology surrounding some of the big names like Elijah Craig and Evan Williams and all that. So it was fun. But after about the second tour, you're like, let me guess, you take rye and corn and barley, and you put it in this thing, and you ferment it for 5 days, and then you distill it, and then you put it in barrels for 4 to 7 years, and then bottle it.
So you're pretty much saying you need to see one, and you pretty much got the gist of them all?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, though, to go and see each different production place's method of producing. I mean, obviously, the overall base concept is the same, but it's just, when they're explaining it to you, and then they're like asking, oh, who knows, what comes next? It's like, I could just give you the tour myself at this point.
We just need the abbreviated tour.
Yeah.
This is what we do different than the other people part of the tour.
Well, and then we were on one tour, and the girl was super sweet, and she, asking us and about all this stuff and kind of walking us through it. And then she's like, well, how many tours have you guys been on? Let's see, what is today? I think this is our 7th one so far this week. Oh, so you're just kind of here for the stamp on your passport, aren't you? Yeah, I mean, and the tasting at the end.
The tasting, really.
Yeah. I'm paying $20 to really just taste the high-end stuff that I'm not gonna spend $80 on a bottle anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good time. I thoroughly enjoyed it, except for the travel back through Ohio. And you know, to and through is just, it's no good. It's just, we just need to get rid of Ohio completely.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts us. But it's the heart of it all.
No, it's really Michigan's armpit if you think about it. If we're the hand.
Oh, come on, that's forearm maybe. Come on, crook of the elbow maybe.
No. I give you shit, but Ohio's all right. It has its moments.
So, what you guys doing down here at the convention? Pushing through, promoting.
Well, I'm basically Travis's personal chauffeur.
Okay.
Lackey. And then when I'm not driving him around, while he rides around with his weird crown that he's made himself, I'm pack mule as well. So I carry all the stuff in, and I'm a little burro basically for most of the con. But Travis asked, he had an extra spot basically, and so I was like, yeah, I can come down. Originally I wasn't gonna come, but they got 2 tables here. They had the space. I said, why not? They hit a lot of cons. I think something like 56 this year. Yeah.
How do they? Are there that many that they get multiples every week?
There's during the high point. There are like New York City Comic Con's coming up.
Yeah.
There's actually a con in Michigan that same weekend.
Oh.
They have a group of guys going to the con in Michigan,
Okay, so they
and
split.
a group of
Okay.
guys in New York. So
Gotcha.
it is not actually uncommon for them to do multiple cons on the same weekend. Yeah. It's they're really hustling, and it's paying off. They were out at Boston or Baltimore a couple of weekends ago, and they actually had like kind of big name writers actually coming up to them and
cool.
asking to do some work with them. So
that's
it's
excellent.
really paying off, yeah. And I'm just there apparently riding on Travis's coattails.
He's riding on yours.
Yeah. I am, I am kind of internet famous, I guess.
You are internet famous. So speaking of your internet famous, what are all the podcasts you are on?
Oh man,
I know you got a list of them.
The active ones.
We'll start with that.
Are Snake Oil Comics, Shot of History are the 2 main ones that publish regularly. And then I do another one with a couple of college buddies that publishes sporadically called Essence of Man. And I also produce and occasionally appear on Snake Oil Horror. And then there's a plethora of dead ones. And some that never actually even made it to publication. So that one I'm the most disappointed in. It was called the Brew Cocky Review.
Okay.
And it was
I'm a little scared, to be honest.
It was going to be kind of like a beer review. We would get drunk and we'd review things. We'd review the beer that we were drinking. And the concept didn't work in the fact that we always got shithoused before we
started.
Yeah, because one person was always just getting off of work at like 11 o'clock, and the other 2 people had already been drinking since 5. So it did not work out as well as we had planned.
He had the sober guy be the one in charge of recording, and
well, he was trying to play catch up, so the whole time he was shoveling beers in his face. But yeah, no, that's the 3 big ones right now are the Snake Oil Horror, Shot of History, and Snake Oil Comics.
And then every once in a while you appear on Heno's Gotham Lights, and
he does want me back on. I don't know why. It's a lot of heavy sighing. So
it's always nice to get an opposing view. The problem is you have to pretty much watch it so you can give an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they like it. It's not really written for me. Clearly. I mean, there's a lot of shows out there that are clearly not written for me. Supergirl being a prime example.
Clearly not written for you. But however, written for you, Kevin Can Wait. You know?
Oh yeah, Kevin Can Wait. That's pure genius. I actually watched the first episode, and the whole time I was like, man, Brigger is really missing out on this. This is comedic genius at its finest.
Well, we're going to do a new segment on our show where I watch Kevin Can Wait every week and talk about it, so Jason has to hear about it.
That's awesome. Are you going to call it Paul Blart?
Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Yeah. No, I actually did watch the first episode of that, and it's like, man, this is basically King of Queens.
Yeah, different woman playing the wife. A nicer, less toned down, less screechy wife.
But yeah, no, it was something else. It was weird watching that show.
Yeah, it's like, he's Doug Heffernan, but he's not Doug Heffernan. What's going on here?
Well, and his brother's on the show, too, or his cousin or whatever.
I think it's his real-life brother.
Yeah.
Playing his brother this time as opposed to his cousin.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, nepotism still works.
Craziness. But yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But it is definitely very much it is very much King of Queens.
Yeah. It's the Kevin James acting humor that you've been used to.
Yeah, exactly.
But better than Chuck and Larry, though.
You know what? I didn't hate Chuck and Larry.
Oh, I hated Chuck and Larry with a passion.
I didn't hate it. It had its moments where it was funny, but it was overall, yes, it was not a great movie, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I hate a movie that's supposedly championing something specific,
right.
like in that case, gay rights, where all it is one big gay joke.
Yeah.
It's like, you're
I totally get that. Yeah, I totally get that. But they redeem themselves at the end, don't they?
Oh, yeah, the 2 minutes at the end where, oh, wait, everything, we learned a lesson. Yay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be worse. It could be Paul Blart.
It could be Paul Blart. You know, I honestly have never seen either Paul Blart. I can't bring myself to watch them.
They're not good. They are not good.
So you saw the second one?
I stomached about 15 minutes of it, and that was about it. But yeah, no, Kevin James,
thumbs up.
A-lister.
Can't wait till he's at the con next year. And
man, that'd be... We should probably work on that.
We should, yeah. We should talk to Andrew, tell him, get Kevin James next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's big-time pull.
I'll have people, his lines will be longer than Stan Lee's are right now.
And then, best part, you'll be able to kick Brigger out.
So you got anything coming up? Any projects in the works you want to?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's the usual stuff, just podcasting. I don't have a whole lot coming up. I mean, there's a lot of... We're definitely trying to make a bigger push on doing Funny Book Guys on SOC.
Okay.
Our parody of Comic Book Men on AMC. We're looking at getting a legit production company to come in and do the filming and editing and stuff. So that'll be fun. I really, when you guys came up with the idea, I think you and Graphic Novice kind of, between the two of you, kind of fleshed out the idea.
Yeah, it was a nice Twitter thread there for a while.
But yeah, I think we're moving towards hopefully actually getting that off the ground, so that'll be fun. I would like to figure out how to get the funding and get the short film short animated feature that we were going to do for the show based off of me, really. It's called Big Dev's Little Cakes. And it's a bunch of punny, stupid, like slapsticky cartoon, kind of done in the same animation style as Archer.
Oh, okay.
But basically because I like to make cakes, and that this whole thing, there's this whole story on SOC where Steve thought I was a pickle scientist at one point, which really I worked at a pickle factory, and I happen to now be a scientist. And he confused the two, but then I, now because my side hobby is to decorate cakes, I open a bakery as Big Dev, and it's called Big Dev's Little Cakes. And I have a guy that works for me that's dressed up as one of those comically large stuffed cupcakes. But you never see him outside of the suit because part of his employment is he's always got to be in the suit. And there's a side story where he goes to like a Kelly Services, like a contracting company, and he shows up and they hand him the suit and they're like, you have to go to the interview in the suit. And he's got a comically small car and they're like, you cannot, once you put the suit on, you cannot get out of the suit. And he has to basically walk the 20 blocks to the job interview in this big cupcake suit. And, Big Dev basically just acts like he's already got the job because he doesn't know any better. It's just this cupcake. He always gets referred to as Cupcake. And you see his eyes, and he always looks sad. But he's got the big, giant, googly eyes on the top of it. It's going to be great.
Small cutout eyes, sad eyes.
Yeah, it'll be great. I really want to get that. There's a script written. But we just got to find the right people to do the animation at this point. But that's a few things, and eventually the calendar.
Oh.
The sexy dev calendar.
That's kind of worrying me.
That we're working on that. I think Jay's gonna do is actually working on a commission of me, maybe as Zardoz.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I've seen a couple of your other photos or drawings.
He says he wants this one to be a little bit more tasteful. I was like, well, but it's sexy Big Dev.
He's never tasteful.
Yeah. I think that's great. I've got right now, as it stands, enough to do like a 12-month calendar.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so we'll see. I've got to input everything and get it done, but that'll be like a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter thing too, and we'll just basically do print on demand type thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it'll be good. It'll be fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down.
Oh yeah, not a problem. I've been doing a whole lot of sitting today actually. This is just a nice change of scenery.
A nice quieter spot, so
yes.
we can get something here. But
yeah.
No, thanks a lot.
Not a problem.
Comic book and movie fans, are you upset that you missed the Great Cincinnati Comic Expo 2016 in Cincinnati, Ohio? Have no fear. There is always next year. 2017 Cincinnati Comic Expo returns to the Duke Energy Convention Center in September. Please check their website, www.cincinnatiComicExpo.com, for more information as it comes out. They release information pretty often, pretty much every month, starting in a couple months, about all the big artists and names that they'll have. Also, keep your eyes peeled because there could be a special little attraction coming in June as well. So yes, check out www.cincinnatiComicExpo.com, and we will see you at the Expo next year. That was our special edition of the Cincinnati Comic Expo. We do appreciate all the guests that came on, and also the Cincinnati Comic Expo for letting us come down there and pretty much, wander around and see the sights and that. Check out our Facebook page, The History of Bad Ideas on Facebook. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Bad Ideas Podcast, and we will keep you updated on all the news for next year's Expo. And again, like I said, keep your eyes open and ears open. There could be something else coming up early next year. And again, we appreciate everything. And next week we will be back to our regularly scheduled program. And Roger says goodbye.
From Walking Dead to Talking Heads, from comic books to TV sets, there's a history of not so bad. There's the history. It's the history of bad, so bad.